The human doesn't beg like others. The metal door opened with a loud click. Cold light spilled into the dark prison cell. Alien guard Thyra stepped inside, her sharp silver boots echoing on the steel floor. She held a small food tray in her hand. It was her job to bring meals to prisoners, especially the new one. But this one wasn't like the others. He was human. The Krex Dominion feared humans. They said humans were dangerous, wild, impossible to control. That's why they kept them locked in the deepest part of the prison ship. Thyra expected the usual things: crying, shouting, or begging. Most prisoners screamed on the first day. Some begged to go home. Others cried for mercy. But not him. The human sat on the floor, calm and quiet. His back was straight, his eyes were open, and he wasn't afraid. Thyra narrowed her purple eyes. "You're not going to eat?" she asked, placing the tray on the floor. The man slowly turned his head. His face was bruised. His clothes were torn. But his voice was soft, steady. "I'm not hungry," he said. Thyra blinked. That wasn't the answer she expected. "You haven't eaten in 2 days," she said. "I've gone longer." Silence. Thyra stepped closer, curious now. She studied him. He had short, dark hair, scars on his arms, and strange eyes, blue like Earth's sky, which she had only seen in pictures. His name was Riven Cade. The Krex commander said he was a soldier, a dangerous one. "You don't cry," Thyra said quietly. "You don't beg. Why?" Riven looked up at her. "Why should I give you what you want?" he asked. Thyra stiffened. She wasn't used to that kind of answer. Most prisoners were scared of her. They obeyed. But this man didn't fear anything. "I'm not here to hurt you," she said, trying to sound calm. He gave a small smile. "Not yet." That smile, it wasn't cruel. It wasn't angry. It was sad. Like he had already seen too much. Like he had already lost everything. Thyra turned to leave, but paused at the door. "You're not like the others," she said. "No," Riven said. "I'm not." As the door closed behind her, Thyra felt something strange in her chest. The tight feeling. Confusion. She told herself not to think about it. But that night, she watched him again, through the prison cameras. He didn't sleep. He just sat there, whispering to himself. Or was he whispering to someone else? Thyra leaned closer to the screen. Riven's lips moved slowly, carefully. She turned up the volume, but she couldn't hear the words. Then something moved in the corner of the cell. She frowned. "No one else is in there," she whispered to herself. But the shadow moved again, just a small flicker in the darkness. Thyra sat back in her chair, her heart beating faster. Could he be hiding something? Was there a secret communication device? A hidden ally? She pressed a button. Security scan. Cell 9B. A blue light passed through the human's body and the room. No weapons. No tech. Nothing. Then what was he whispering to? The next morning, Thyra returned. She carried another tray. She wasn't supposed to talk to the prisoners for long, but something inside her wanted answers. Riven looked up as she entered. He didn't speak. "I saw you last night," she said. "You were talking to someone." He shrugged. "Maybe I was just talking to myself." "No," she said. "You were saying something. It looked like a code." Riven didn't reply. Thyra took a step forward. Her voice was lower now, almost a whisper. "Are you planning something?" He tilted his head, studying her. "Would you believe me if I said yes?" She stared at him. His eyes didn't blink. There was no fear in them. No lies either. Just something deeper. "I don't know," she said honestly. Riven leaned forward, his voice calm. "I didn't come here by accident." Her heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "I needed to be caught," he said. "There's something inside this ship I needed to reach." Thyra backed away. "You're lying." He looked away. "Maybe." Then he turned back to her and smiled again. Or maybe your empire is already falling apart, and you just don't see it yet. The door slid shut behind her, but Thyra's mind was spinning. Why would a prisoner want to be caught? What was he really doing here? And why, even now, did she feel like he wasn't the one trapped? She's just a guard, but he sees more. From prisoner and guard to something no one saw coming. Thyra didn't sleep much that night. She lay on her cold metal bed, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling of her barracks. But her mind wasn't there. It was back in the prison block. Back in cell 9B. Back with the human. The next morning, Thyra walked slower than usual as she returned to the prison sector. She wasn't sure why. Maybe she hoped the human would speak again. Maybe she was scared of what he might say. As she stepped into the cell, she expected silence. Instead, she heard something. A soft humming. The human, Riven Cade, was sitting cross-legged, eyes closed, humming a tune that didn't belong to this cold ship. It was peaceful, strange, almost beautiful. Thyra stood frozen. Her fingers tightened around the food tray. "What is that sound?" she asked. Riven opened his eyes and looked up. A small smile played on his lips. "A lullaby," he said, "from Earth." She placed the tray down but didn't leave. "It's soft," she said. "Not like war music." He chuckled. "It's not for war. It's for children, to help them sleep." Thyra stared. Humans sing to their young. Riven tilted his head. "Don't you?" She didn't answer. No one ever sang to her. Thyra sat down, just a few steps from the cell bars. She wasn't supposed to sit, not with prisoners. It was against every Krex rule. But somehow, in front of this human, the rules felt less important. "You told me yesterday you wanted to be caught," she said. "I did." "Why?" He paused, then looked straight into her eyes. "Because there's something worse than death, Thyra. And that's being silent when people are suffering." She flinched when he said her name. How did he know it? "I read your name badge," he said, noticing her shock. "The first day you brought food." She nodded slowly. "Still doesn't explain why you're here." Riven looked around the cell. "This place, this empire, it's built on fear. I came to show you something your leaders are hiding." She laughed. It was a small, sharp sound. "Show me. I'm just a guard." "That's what they tell you," Riven said softly. "But I think you're more than that." Thyra looked away. Later that day, she reviewed the security footage again. This time, something strange happened. When the lights flickered in Riven's cell, the cameras glitched. Just for a second. But when they came back, there was a mark on the wall. A glowing symbol, written in human language. "That wasn't there before," she whispered. She zoomed in. The word was simple. Awaken. The next few days passed slowly, but everything was changing. Every time she brought food, Riven would say something small, something that stuck in her head. He told her about trees, about lakes so big they touched the sky, about a place called home that wasn't ruled by war or fear. She told herself not to believe him, but she did. One night, Thyra couldn't stay away. She returned to the cell after hours. "You're breaking rules," Riven said with a smile. "I just have questions," she replied. She stepped closer. "Why don't you hate me?" she asked. "I'm your guard. I'm part of the empire that hurt your people." Riven stood up slowly, walking to the edge of the cell. His eyes were calm. "Because you looked at me. Really looked. You didn't just follow orders. You listened." Thyra felt something strange. Warm. Frightening. Safe. All at once. "Why did you write on the wall?" she asked. "To remind myself. And maybe you." "Remind you of what?" He smiled again. "That even in darkness, someone can still awaken." As Thyra walked back to her quarters, she passed by another guard's arc. He gave her a suspicious look. "Why do you spend so much time with the human?" he asked. "I'm doing my job," she lied. "Don't get too close," Zark warned. "Humans are dangerous. They lie. They twist your mind." Thyra said nothing. But in her heart, she already knew something inside her had changed. And maybe, just maybe, that was exactly what the human wanted. That night, her sleep was filled with strange dreams. She saw Earth. She saw Riven standing on green hills. And she saw herself standing beside him. Free. He could have escaped, but he saved her. Freedom was in his hand, but he turned back for her. The alarms screamed through the ship. Red lights flashed across the walls like blood in motion. Metal doors slammed shut. Orders echoed over the speakers in the Krex language. Panic filled the air like thick smoke. The prison was under attack. Thyra ran through the corridor, pushing past guards. She had just finished her shift when the lights first blinked. At first, she thought it was just another system failure. Then she heard the boom, a deep, heavy explosion from below. Now, chaos ruled the prison. She reached the lower level just as the force fields around the cells flickered, then dropped. Prisoners screamed. Some rushed for the exits, some fought the guards. And one, just one, didn't move. Riven Cade sat still in cell 9B, even as the door slid open. He looked up, calm as ever, watching the chaos like he had been waiting for it. Thyra ran up to him, blaster in hand. "The field is down," she shouted. "You can escape." Riven stood slowly. "I know." She looked at him, confused. "Then go." He stared at her for a long moment. Then, he turned away from the exit. "Where are you going?" she asked. "I have to check something first," he said. And without another word, he ran toward the control center. Thyra followed him. She didn't know why. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was something deeper that she didn't understand yet. But her heart told her to stay close to this strange human. They moved through smoke-filled halls. A Krex war drone flew overhead, scanning. Riven grabbed Thyra and pulled her behind a wall just in time. "Why are you helping me?" she whispered. He looked at her. "Because you're not like them." She wanted to believe that, but a voice inside her still said, "I'm a guard. I'm part of the system." But when she looked into Riven's eyes, that voice faded. As they reached the central command area, a second blast rocked the ship. The floor cracked beneath their feet. Fire sparked from the ceiling. A support beam fell. Thyra screamed as metal crushed down toward her. She tried to run, but her leg twisted under her, and she fell hard. Pain shot up her side. Then darkness. She woke up moments later. Something warm wrapped around her. Riven. He had pulled her out from the wreckage. He was cradling her, holding a broken piece of metal off her chest. "Why?" She coughed. "Why didn't you leave?" "I told you," he said. "I'm not leaving you here. You could have escaped. You had the chance." Riven looked around. Smoke, fire, screaming. But in that moment, all he saw was her. "I didn't come to escape," he said. "I came to start something." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small glowing device. It looked like a crystal, pulsing with a soft blue light. Thyra stared. "What is that?" "Hope," Riven said simply. Footsteps. Heavy boots. A squad of Krex soldiers rushed toward them, weapons raised. "Freeze." Riven raised his hand slowly. Thyra tried to speak, but the pain was too much. The lead soldier pointed at her. "Traitor," he hissed. "Step away from the prisoner." Riven's voice was sharp now. "She's hurt. She needs help." But the soldiers didn't listen. "Take her. Leave the human," the leader barked. Thyra reached out. "No, no, please." Riven grabbed her hand. "It's okay. I'll find you again." The soldiers knocked him to the ground and dragged Thyra away. As she was pulled down the hallway, she looked back. Through blurry eyes, she saw Riven being beaten, pushed down, shackled. But he didn't fight back. He just looked at her and nodded. A promise. Thyra was thrown into a med-bay cell. Her leg was fractured. Her ribs were bruised. But her heart ached more than her body. Why? She whispered to herself. Why would he risk everything for me? Then she looked down, and in her hand, closed tight, was the glowing crystal Riven had left behind. The one he called Hope. Later that night, when the ship was quiet again and the alarms were silent, Thyra did something she had never done before. She cried. Not from pain, not from fear, but from knowing someone had believed in her, even when she didn't believe in herself. She betrays her people. For him. She was raised to obey. But now she must choose to feel. Thyra sat on the edge of the cold med-bay bed, her leg wrapped in a metal brace, her ribs stiff with pain. Her mind, however, was far more broken than her body. She couldn't stop thinking about him. The human, Riven Cade, who could have escaped, who had every reason to run, but stayed. For her, the Krex commander visited her in the morning. He stood tall in his dark armor, with a sharp jaw and glowing red eyes. His name was Commander Vexer, and he was feared by everyone, even other Krex soldiers. He looked at Thyra like she was nothing. You disappoint me, he said coldly. She didn't reply. You let the human manipulate you. Still, silence. But you can fix this, he continued. You know where he planted the device. Her eyes narrowed. What if I don't? Then your family dies, he said flatly. She froze. Her hands began to shake. Back on her home planet, her mother still worked in a mining camp. Her younger brother was only 12. They were under Krex rule. Monitored. Controlled. Vexer leaned closer. Bring us the human's truth, he whispered, or we burn your truth away. He left her with those words, and a countdown. 1 cycle. 24 hours. That night, as the lights dimmed, Thyra sat alone in her med cell, staring at the small blue crystal Riven had left her. It still glowed faintly. She held it up. Why? She whispered. Why did you save me? Why trust someone like me? The crystal didn't answer, but her memories did. She remembered Riven's calm voice, his sad smile, his eyes that didn't hate her even when he had every reason to. He had planted something inside this ship, that much she now believed, but not a bomb, not a virus, an idea. She limped out of the med bay and moved through the halls, pretending she had new orders. The guards didn't question her. She still wore her uniform. But inside, she wasn't the same person anymore. She made her way to the lower prison floor, and she stopped at cell 12C. They had moved him there after the attack. She stood outside, heart pounding. Then, she stepped in. Riven looked worse than before. His lip was cut, and one eye was swollen shut. But when he saw her, he smiled softly. You made it, he whispered. She nodded. I have to ask you something. Go ahead. What did you really come here to do? He took a long breath. Not to destroy, not to kill. I came to show you, and others like you, that there's something better. Better than what? Better than chains. Better than fear. She stared at him. Do you know what happens if I help you? Yes, he said quietly. You'll lose everything. And if I don't? Then I'll die. But maybe you'll lose even more. Thyra turned her back and walked to the wall. She opened a hidden panel. Inside was a control chip. She removed it and handed it to him. This connects to the internal signal grid, she said. You can use it to send a message. He stared at her in shock. You're helping me. I'm betraying my people, she said bitterly. For someone who should hate me. He took the chip with shaking hands. I don't hate you, Thyra. Then why do I feel like I'm the prisoner now? They worked quickly. She guided him through the maps, places she knew well. Supply routes, guard paths, blind spots in the surveillance system. He stared at the plans. You know this ship better than anyone." She gave a small, hollow laugh. "I was born on this ship." "Then maybe," he said, "you weren't meant to guard it. Maybe you were meant to free it." A soft alarm rang in the hallway. 10 hours left. Thyra felt the pressure building in her chest. She couldn't run from the choice anymore. Either she followed her orders, or she followed her heart. And her heart was already no longer cracks. They moved at night. Thyra used her access code to enter the backup signal tower. Riven climbed the tower's ladder with her help, one step at a time, despite his wounds. At the top, he plugged the chip into the system. It began to transmit. A message, across deep space. Not a scream, not a warning, but a call. To anyone still listening, Riven said into the mic, "This is a human prisoner on a Krex ship, but I am not alone anymore. The galaxy thinks the Krex can't be broken, but they already have cracks in their walls, and one of those cracks is standing beside me." He looked at Thyra. She was raised to be a guard, but today she became a shield. The message sent, but alarms began to blare. They were discovered. Thyra turned to him. "Run. I'll hold them off." "No," Riven said. "I'm not leaving you again." But she pushed him. "Hard. If they catch both of us, this ends. But if one escapes, the spark survives." He grabbed her hand. "I'll come back." "I know," she said. "And if I don't, then I'll come find you." The doors burst open. Guards poured in. Riven vanished into the shadows, and Thyra turned to face her own people. Not as a guard, but as a traitor. Or maybe, just maybe, as a beginning. The alien girl stands for humanity. She was raised by a brutal empire. Now she risks death to protect the human who changed her heart. Thyra stood still as the Krex soldiers surrounded her. Their red eyes burned with rage. Their rifles pointed at her chest. Her own kind, now looking at her like a stranger. Traitor. That word wasn't said aloud, but it was written on every face in the room. She didn't raise her hands. She didn't cry or explain. She just stood tall and waited. Commander Vexer stepped forward slowly, his heavy boots echoing on the steel floor. "Where is the human?" Thyra said nothing. "What did he give you? Gold, promises, lies?" She looked him dead in the eye. "He gave me something you never did," she said. "He gave me choice." Vexer's hand twitched. The slap came fast, sharp. Her head turned from the force of it, but she didn't fall. She turned back and stared at him with steady eyes. "You're stronger than I thought," Vexer growled. "Good. You'll need that strength where you're going." They dragged her through the ship. No trial, no questions, just silence and chains. Every soldier she passed looked away. She was no longer one of them. They took her to Cell 7C, the darkest, deepest part of the ship. They stripped her of rank. They left her in the cold. And then, they left her alone. Meanwhile, Riven Cade was running. His legs hurt. His ribs screamed with every breath. But his mind was sharp. His heart was louder than the alarms around him. He had to get back to her. She had bought him time, but it wouldn't last long. He reached the lower cargo bay, where the rebels had said they'd send help if the signal was successful. He ducked behind crates, avoiding patrol drones. He reached into his pocket and touched the second crystal, identical to the one he had given Thyra. It pulsed once, then again. That meant only one thing. The message had been received. Help was coming. But he had to survive long enough to open the hangar doors. Back in Cell 7Z, Thyra sat against the wall. Her body ached, but it was her heart that felt heavier. She thought about her younger brother back home, his laugh, his smile. Would he ever know what she had done? Would he ever know that she finally stood for something? Then, through the silence, she heard it. A whisper. "Thyra." She looked up. There, in the darkness, Riven, She blinked in shock. "How did you?" "Quiet," he whispered, unlocking the cell door with a stolen key card. "No time." She stood with effort. "You came back. I said I would." "You're insane." "Maybe," he said, "but I'm not leaving without you." As they moved through the lower halls, the ship shook again. The rebels had arrived. Explosions sounded from the top decks. Fighters swarmed the ship like angry insects. The Krek's ship was under siege. Riven and Thyra ran side by side. They reached the main hangar bay, where a rebel ship had just docked. But standing between them and escape was a full squad of Krek soldiers. And at the front, Commander Vexer. He raised his rifle. "I should have destroyed you when you were a child. Girl." Thyra stepped forward. "You can still try." Vexer laughed. "So be it." He fired. Riven tackled Thyra to the ground. The blast hit the wall behind them, exploding into sparks. "Split up," Riven shouted. "Go left. I'll draw them." "No," she shouted. "We do this together." The two fought like one. Riven picked up a fallen weapon. Thyra used her old training. She moved with speed and purpose, not to kill, but to disable. She knew their armor, their weak points, their blind spots. Riven covered her. She opened the doors. The rebel ship extended its ramp. A voice shouted from inside. "Hurry." Vexer, wounded but alive, pulled a final weapon from his side. An energy spear. He charged, right at Riven. Thyra saw it. Time slowed. She didn't think. She moved. Fast. She slammed into Vexer before the spear could touch Riven. They both hit the ground hard. Riven grabbed her hand and pulled her up. "You saved me again," he said. She smirked, bruised and bleeding. "Now we're even." They boarded the ship. The ramp closed. The engines roared. As the rebel ship took off, Krek's soldiers fired after them, but the ship vanished into the stars. Free. At last. In the medbay of the rebel ship, Thyra lay on a cot. Her wounds were being treated. Riven sat beside her. "You could have left me," she whispered. "You could have betrayed me." They both smiled. "So," Thyra said, "what happens now?" Riven looked out the window at the stars rushing by. "Now we show the galaxy that an empire built on fear can be broken by one choice." "Whose choice?" "Yours." That night, she dreamed again. But this time, it wasn't of cold metal halls or glowing red eyes. It was of green hills, of soft lullabies, and a world where humans and aliens stood together. And somewhere in that dream, she saw herself. Free. She sacrifices everything to save the human. They ran to freedom, but the galaxy was not ready to let them go. The rebel ship flew through deep space, quiet and dark. Only the stars moved outside the window, blinking slowly like old eyes watching from far away. Inside, Riven Cade sat beside Thyra, who rested quietly in the medbay. Her face was pale, her arm in a sling, her leg wrapped tight. She looked peaceful now, but Riven knew, inside, she was hurting. She had left everything behind. Her family, her home, her people. And she did it, for him. The ship's captain, a gruff alien named Rock Kai, entered the medbay. "We can't go far," Rock said. "Krek's ships are chasing us. We need to jump." Riven stood up. "To where?" "An old rebel outpost on Astara Moon. Hidden. Abandoned. We might survive there, but only if she can move." He nodded at Thyra. Riven looked down at her. "She'll be ready," he whispered. Hours later, Thyra opened her eyes. "We made it?" she asked, voice dry. "For now," Riven replied, handing her water. "But we're not safe. Not yet." She sat up slowly. Her body felt heavy, but her heart felt something else. Alive. They landed on Astara Moon, a silent place covered in silver dust and dead trees. The rebel base was carved into a canyon long forgotten, but it still had power, shelter, and food. That night, they rested for the first time in days. But the peace didn't last. Just before sunrise, the alarm rang. A warning flashed across the screen. Incoming KRXF fleet. ETA. 2 HOURs. Rockkai slammed his fist on the table. They tracked us. We must leave now. But Thyra limped forward. We can't outrun them again, she said. Not with this ship. Riven nodded. Then we don't run. The room went quiet. Rock stared. You want to fight the Creks? No, Riven said. I want to distract them. He looked at Thyra, and she understood. The plan was crazy, dangerous, stupid, perfect. Riven and Thyra would take a small scout ship and launch into the open, on purpose. The Creks would chase them, thinking they were escaping with secret data. Meanwhile, the rebel ship would hide in the canyon, engines off, shielded. The Creks would never think to search there. An hour later, the scout ship was ready. Riven climbed into the cockpit. Thyra followed, limping slightly. You sure about this? He asked. You came back for me, she said. Now it's my turn. He smiled, but his eyes were sad. We might not make it. Then we go together. They launched into the stars. At once, 5 Creks cruisers locked on. Target identified. Human vessel. Fire at will. Laser beams flashed past their ship. Riven swerved hard, barely dodging. Thyra worked the comms, sending fake codes and noise to confuse the enemy. They're chasing us, she said. Good, Riven said. Keep them angry. The ship shook. A hit. Smoke filled the back. Systems failing. Riven turned toward a gas cloud nearby. An old trick from human war pilots. Hold on, he said. We're going into the dark. They dove into the cloud. No sensors. No vision. Only silence. The Creks ships paused. We've lost them, one pilot reported. Commander Vexer, alive and furious, gritted his teeth on the lead ship. Find them. Now. Inside the gas cloud, everything was quiet. The ship floated. Damage. Still. Thyra looked at Riven. He was bleeding from the shoulder, but still alive. She reached for his hand. If this is the end, then I'm glad I'm here with you, he said. They sat in the silence, hand in hand, waiting. Suddenly, a shadow moved outside. A Creks drone. It spotted them, sent the signal, and now they were surrounded. Riven tried to restart the ship. Nothing. Dead. The Creks demanded they surrender. Thyra stood. She looked at Riven. You have to leave. What? Take the pod. Escape through the lower hatch. No, I'm not leaving you. Riven, please, she said. If they capture you, the galaxy loses its voice. And if they capture you, then I become a whisper. He looked at her. Tears filled his eyes. He hugged her tight. You changed everything, he whispered. So did you. She smiled. Then she pushed him into the pod. The hatch closed. The escape pod launched. And Thyra turned to face the incoming Creks boarding team. She raised her hands. She smiled again. And then, she stepped forward. Alone. Far away, inside the escape pod, Riven watched the stars pass by. His heart was broken, but his eyes burned with fire. He would not let her sacrifice be forgotten. He would make the galaxy remember her name. The prisoner returns as a hero. He came to their world in chains. Now he returns, with a voice the galaxy cannot ignore. The stars look different now, colder, lonelier. Riven Cade sat inside the escape pod, drifting through the black sea of space. The Creks ship faded behind him, but his thoughts stayed with one person, Thyra, the alien girl who chose him over her own people. the one who gave up her future to protect his, the one who stood between him and death, not once, but twice. He clutched the last thing she had given him, a small data cube with everything she knew about the Krex Empire, secret files, base coordinates, weaknesses, and proof of everything they tried to hide. It was time to use it. Days later, the pod was picked up by a rebel freighter. Riven, pale and wounded, walked off the ramp and stood before the rebel council on Zera Prime, a world hidden deep in asteroid fields. He held out the data cube. "This," he said, "was given to me by a Krex officer who turned against her masters." The room went silent. "Her name is Thyra. She is brave. She is loyal. She believed the Krex could be stopped. And she was right." They reviewed the files. They saw everything. Torture chambers, illegal weapons, stolen planets, hidden labs. And they saw Thyra's face, speaking into the camera, just hours before the final mission. "My name is Thyra of the Krex Guard," her voice said. "But I no longer serve fear. I now stand for truth, for freedom, for peace." A silence filled the room. Then, one by one, the rebels stood. "It's time," said one. "Let's end this," said another. "For her," said Riven. The rebellion awoke. Across dozens of systems, her message spread. Broadcasted in secret, hidden in code, passed from planet to planet. And with it, a face the galaxy would never forget. An alien girl once loyal to the enemy, now calling for a better future. Some called her a traitor. Most called her a hero. The Krex Empire was furious. They sent out bounty hunters, ships, spies. But it was too late. The people had heard, and the people were ready. 6 months later, Riven stood again in chains. But this time, it was his idea. He allowed himself to be captured. He knew the risks. But he wanted to get inside. Krex High Command, the place where it all began. Just like the first time, he sat in a dark prison cell, waiting, watching. Commander Vexer walked in, older now, angrier. His empire was crumbling. "You again," Vexer said, eyes burning. "You just don't know when to die." Riven smiled. "You don't know when to listen." Vexer raised his hand to strike, but a loud boom stopped him. Explosions. The walls shook. Sirens screamed. Riven looked up calmly. "That sound. That's your people, finally waking up." Outside, rebel ships rained fire. Krex soldiers ran for cover. But they were outnumbered, outmatched, and worst of all, out of loyalty. Many Krex soldiers dropped their weapons. Some raised their hands. A few even shouted Thyra's name. The rebels stormed the prison. They found Riven, freed him, and together they walked through the burning halls of a dying empire. At the central tower, Riven stepped in front of the galaxy-wide broadcast system. He looked into the camera. His face was dirty, his clothes torn, but his eyes shined like stars. "They took me as a prisoner. They thought they could break me. But what they didn't understand was that I never came here to fight alone." He held up the crystal, the one Thyra gave him. "She taught me that even in the coldest place, a warm heart can still beat. Even in darkness, a light can grow." He paused. The galaxy listened. "We are not enemies, not humans, not aliens. We are voices, dreams, choices. And today, we choose freedom." The galaxy responded. Worlds once ruled by fear stood up. Fleets rose from hiding. And on every screen, across thousands of systems, one name returned again and again. Thyra. Years later, a statue stood tall on Unity Prime, the capital of the new alliance. It showed two figures side by side, a human soldier with a scar on his cheek, and an alien girl with a calm smile and sharp eyes. At the base of the statue, 3 words were carved into the stone. She believed first. And somewhere, deep in space, A figure stood at the edge of a cliff, staring at the stars. She wore a cloak, a scar on her leg, a crystal around her neck. She smiled as she whispered to the wind, "You kept your promise, Riven. Now it's my turn." She turned and walked into the light.